All right, let's get into it. Have you ever just picked something up, maybe an app or a gadget, and it just feels right? And then other times, it feels like a puzzle you can't possibly solve? Well, turns out there's a secret language at work all around us, in pretty much every single thing we use. And today, we're going to learn how to speak it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You download a new app, and it's just smooth. It's totally effortless. All the buttons are right where you'd expect them to be. The info is clear. It's almost like it was made specifically for you. And then there are the other ones. The ones with menus that make zero sense, with these teeny tiny buttons you can't possibly tap, and a layout that feels completely random. The frustration? Oh, it is so real.
So, what's the difference between that feeling of joy and that feeling of pure frustration? Well, it's not luck, and it's definitely not magic. It's actually a system, a powerful set of principles that designers use to guide your experience, and a lot of the time, you don't even notice it's happening.
Yeah, you can think of these rules as like a designer's secret handbook. They're codex. They're the absolute foundation for creating experiences that aren't just functional, but are actually intuitive, maybe even a little delightful. So where does it all start? It starts with the absolute basics. How your brain even makes sense of the things you see. Designers use these principles of perception to guide your attention with, like, surgical precision. Okay, so at any given moment, your brain is asking one really simple question. What am I supposed to be looking at here, and what's just background noise? That, right there, is the figure-ground relationship. And giving a clear answer to that question, that's step one for any clear design. Have you ever landed on a website that's so incredibly busy you couldn't tell the ads from the actual articles? That's what happens when the figure-ground relationship is a total mess. When everything is screaming for your attention, nothing gets through, and your brain just kind of gets confused. And you know what? Designers have totally mastered how to control this. Just think about one of those subscribe to our newsletter pop-ups. The second it appears, the website behind it instantly dims. Suddenly, the pop-up becomes the obvious figure, and the site becomes the ground. Your focus is totally captured, and that's not by accident. That is 100% by design. So once a designer has your attention on the right thing, how do they guide you through it? Well, that's where hierarchy comes in. It's all about creating a visual roadmap for your eyes, making sure you see the most important stuff first. You see this all the time. A perfect example is basically any article you read online. The title is huge, that's level 1. It's designed to grab you. Then the subheadings are smaller, but they're still bold and prominent. That's level 2, they let you scan. And then you have the regular body text, level 3, for when you're ready to dig into the details. It creates this instant, intuitive path for your eyes to follow. But you know, just guiding your eyes is only half the battle. These visual principles are really just the building blocks for something even more important. Creating a feeling of ease. And this is where the principles of usability come in, transforming a design that just looks good into one that feels completely effortless. So Hick's Law? This explains a feeling that I know we've all had. Analysis paralysis, right? Staring at a restaurant menu with 100 options is just overwhelming. The more choices you give someone, the longer it takes them to choose, and the more likely it is that they're just going to give up entirely. And this is a massive problem for designers. Because if every single option is presented at once, we, the users, we just freeze up. So how do they get us past that paralysis?
Well, they use this really clever technique called progressive disclosure. Instead of just dumping everything on you at once, they reveal complexity step by step, only as you actually need it. It's the perfect antidote to that anxiety that Hick's Law causes.
A perfect example is signing up for a new app. The old way? They'd show you this giant, intimidating form with like 20 different boxes to fill in. But the new way, it just asks for your email. Simple. Then your password. Then your name. Each step is easy and manageable, guiding you through all that complexity without ever overwhelming you. And you know, this sense of ease also applies to physical actions. It's governed by a principle called Fitz's Law, which basically says the bigger and closer a target is, the faster it is to hit. That's why that Add to Cart button isn't just big for show, it's scientifically designed to be super easy to click. All right, now we get to the really subtle stuff. The principles that go beyond what you see or what you do, and they tap directly into how your brain already works. This is what separates good design from design that feels truly intuitive. See, you never approach a new device with a completely blank slate. You bring with you a mental model, an expectation of how it should work, based on everything similar you've used before. Great design lines up with your mental model. Confusing design totally breaks it. The classic example here is the desktop on your computer.
We get the idea of files, folders, and a trash can because they mimic the mental model of a real-life office desk. An online shopping cart icon makes perfect sense because we all know how a real one works. By tapping into these shared models, designers can create experiences that require almost zero learning.
So with all these principles in mind, a designer's biggest challenge is figuring out where to even focus their effort. And the answer, a lot of the time, is in the 80-20 rule. It basically says that for most systems, a huge majority of the value, we're talking 80%, comes from a tiny little minority of the features.
Think about a program like Microsoft Word. I mean, it has hundreds of features, right? But most of us only ever use a tiny handful of them. Typing, maybe bolding text, saving the file. That is the critical 20%. Smart design focuses on making that core 20% of features absolutely perfect because that's what 80% of people will be using 80% of the time.
And honestly, what we've covered today is really just scratching the surface. This codex of design principles is absolutely vast. It covers deep psychological concepts that influence everything from our trust in technology to the little decisions we make every single day.
But now you've peeked behind the curtain. You are in on the secret. You have the key to this hidden language. So my question to you is, look around, at your phone, at the websites you visit, at the world. What invisible rules are you going to start to notice now?